Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, we are talking about a new Ludicolo card. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. A little while ago, I told you we would be getting a reprint of this Ludicolo, and we are, but it's not quite as sweet as we might unfortunately have liked, which is a little bit sad. And it is basically a budget version of Zoroark-GX, let me explain. So the good news is it is a water Pokemon, so you can use Brooklet Hill to search out those Lotad, which is nice, and you can use Aqua Patch to accelerate energy, as long as it's on your bench, which is nice. It is hitting weakness against Volcanion, but as I always say with these fire Pokemon, you've got Ho-Oh, and Ho-Oh's not weak to water, so weakness hitting is not great at the moment, because fire Pokemon are just like, fine, I'll use Ho-Oh. 140 HP is actually really low, when you consider that the average nowadays is 160, think things like Empoleon, and then my boy Mamoswine's up at 180 for a Stage 2. 140 is low, and a retreat cost of 2 sucks. The good news is the weakness is to Lightning here, and the only really viable Lightning Pokemon at the moment is Raichu-GX, and even that's not seeing a huge amount of play. Could be worse, could be better. As for the ability here, nice and straightforward, draw a card. And drawing extra cards is always good. I mean, look, we're losing Octillery when the rotation rolls around in September. So that is largely what people are using for draw power at the moment, and we don't have it. Well, that's a lie, we do have it. But we won't have it when the rotation hits in September. So we're going to need other ways to draw cards. Ludicolo is it. Just flat out draw a card. That's good. Of course, we're going to keep Oranguru when the rotation hits, but that's not particularly impressive, because as fun as that is, and as much as it is a basic Pokemon, and it is a basic Pokemon, you only draw until you got 3 cards in your hand. So there's going to be plenty of games where you've got 3 or more cards in hand, where Oranguru ain't doing nothing. And don't forget, of course, that this is just for one Ludicolo. There is absolutely a possibility here that we could have 2, 3, 4 Ludicolo out, and therefore be drawing 2, 3, 4 extra cards per turn. Okay, could be quite nice. I mean, look, you only have to look at Zoroark. Zoroark is admittedly a Stage 1 rather than a Stage 2. But you discard a card from your hand, you draw 2 cards. People love Zoroark, and the draw power here is one of the main reasons. Now, saying that, Alolan Sandslash has this ability. Alolan Sandslash is a Stage 1 water Pokemon that has an ability that just once per turn lets you draw a card. And it doesn't see any play. Like, any play whatsoever. No one's playing Alolan Sandslash. Maybe that will change after rotation. And bearing in mind, Alolan Sandslash is a water Pokemon, so it's got Brooklet Hill. And it's a Stage 1, not a Stage 2 like Ludicolo is. And it's not seeing any play, which is a little bit of an issue. Now, of course, this Ludicolo is a reprint of an old Ludicolo, as we've suggested. And I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, back in the day, it was played with Magcargo. And several of the older players I know have been posting around today like, yeah, Ludicolo Magcargo's back, woo, etc. Because Magcargo, I did a video on it, I'll pop a link in the description. Magcargo was this great card, well, it's coming back, it's still going to be a great card, that allows you once per turn to search for any card from your deck and put it on top of your deck. And then, of course, Ludicolo comes in and draws that card. So as long as you've got a Magcargo on your bench and a Ludicolo in play, active or bench, doesn't matter, then once per turn you just search your deck for any card and pop it in your hand. That is amazing. That's just getting a free card every turn, just like Pidgeot used to. Although Pidgeot was actually limited to once per turn, this isn't. Well, by the current translation, which I should mention, comes from the lovely David Hochmann, as has been the case quite a lot lately. It's not limited. Now, to be fair, you would need a Stage 1 Magcargo and a Stage 2 Ludicolo for every card you got out. So in theory, if you did have 3 Magcargo and 3 Ludicolo out, you would just be able to search for any 3 cards per turn. But just so we're clear, there is very, very, very little chance that that is actually going to work. It's just not something that's going to work all that often. The ability is really, really good, but as we saw with a Lowland Sandslash, it's not going to work if the attack isn't good. And the attack is good. Water double colorless, 70 damage, plus 10 more for each Pokemon in play other than Ludicolo. If you have a full bench, this does 130 damage, because your opponent has to have at least one Pokemon in play. If they don't, you win the game. So you have 5 bench Pokemon, they have 1 active, you do 130. 130 is the absolute minimum you hit. But if both players have a full bench here, then there's 11 Pokemon in play, plus Ludicolo, who doesn't do extra damage, add the 70 base, and you're doing 180. And this hits for some very good numbers. Minimum 130, assuming you've got a full bench. Stuff like Registeel, standard 130 HP Pokemon, will go down. If your opponent has a bench of 4, you'll be hitting up to 170, that's Tapu Lele territory. Or indeed, if your opponent has a bench of 1 and you use a Choice Band, that's Tapu Lele territory. You could here, and it's unlikely, but you could even get up to 210 if both players have a full bench and you whack a Choice Band on there. The thing is, your opponent is almost certainly, if they're playing with a Zoroark or something that's got 210 HP, they're just going to leave a bench space. Now, I know technically at the moment we still have Captivating Pokepuff, but 1, nobody's playing it, and 2, it's going away when we rotate. So it's not really something to rely on here. So your opponent can kind of block this, but if you catch them overbenching, this is good. If nothing else, and we see this all the time with cards like Empoleon that punish your opponent for having a large bench, your opponent is going to not bench Pokemon that they want to bench. That's fine. Your opponent is basically going, I'm going to hurt my own setup just to hurt you. Go ahead, mate. Go ahead. Now, we do have to look at the attack cost here. It's quite expensive. You have double colorless energy, which is nice. And you have Aqua Patch, which is nice. And being a non-EX, non-GX, as long as you're behind on prizes, you've got counter energy, which is nice. And if you've got 3 stage 2s in play, you've got Super Boost Energy. And actually, Super Boost Energy is really cool here, because first of all, it will cover the attack cost all by itself, as long as you've got 2 other stage 2s in play. And secondly, if you're playing Ludicolo, you are definitely playing minimum 1 Macargo. So it's not like you've got to draw into your 1 Super Boost Energy, because, well, no, you just search for it with Macargo. And if you are playing Macargo and Ludicolo, then as soon as you get 1 Ludicolo out, it's not, oh, I'm going to play this Cynthia and hope I hit Rare Candy Ludicolo. It's going to be, I'm going to play this Cynthia and hope I hit one of them, because I can use Macargo to search for the other one. You should pretty much always be able to hit 170 with this attack. Your opponent's going to have 1 bench Pokemon most of the time. But your opponent having 3 bench, allowing you to KO Buzzwole, Dustmane, Necrozma, etc., that's a little bit less likely. It might still happen, but again, there's lots of ifs, buts, and maybes going on here. Either way, hitting 120, because you've got a full bench, and then obviously 130, because your opponent's got to have an active, that's not that bad for free energy. Now, what is really annoying here, it's a reprint of Ludicolo, except it's not a reprint of Ludicolo. There's an attack missing. And I've got to give another shout out to David Hochmann here. He pointed this out on Twitter a while ago. Non-EX, non-GX Pokemon don't have 3 things anymore. GXs do, non-GXs don't. Except, weirdly, the Kangaskhan that's coming out in Champion Road, which is dumb. But they took away one of Ludicolo's attacks. They, in fact, took away a pretty nice attack. 30 damage, discard as many cards from your hand as you like, remove that many damage counters from Ludicolo. It's a nice healing attack. It gets stuff in the discard for things like Aqua Patch. It just empties your hand so you can draw more cards with something like an Oranguru. Either way, right, it's annoying, to be perfectly honest. They stopped an attack, so cheers for that. But it is kind of like a budget Zoroark. It draws cards. It has an attack that depends on how many Pokemon are in play. Of course, we could also just call it a budget Empoleon from Dark Explorers, which also drew cards. and also did a bunch of damage depending on how many Pokemon are in play. But Empoleon was really good. And Zoroark's really good, and I know it's a stage 2, and I know the attack cost is awkward. But there has got to be a little bit of potential here. And for that reason, I'm giving it between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. Maybe the fact that it's a stage 2 with 3 energy, 2 attachments, is too slow. But maybe you can use something like a Alolan Vulpix to set up here. And maybe you use Magcargo with it. And maybe this ends up working. I remain hopeful. But I want to hear about you, ladies and gentlemen. I want to know what you think about Ludicolo and whether you remain hopeful. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, but be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio and do check out Wassie Plays for some more Wassie action. But by far the most important thing as always is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross and you've been watching PTCG Radio.